Hey, everybody. Song is perfect leading into what we're going to talk about today. And I want to say hi to you if you're a guest with us today. We're sure glad you're here. Really hoping that you have a real authentic encounter with God today. That's our intention. We've been working hard all week getting ready for you and what I think God would want to speak to you about today. So I'm looking forward to getting into that stuff. A few things first. If you know, one of the core values of our church is that we're word-centered, and so that means we need to know the Bible well, and we're out looking for opportunities to teach people how to study the Bible and to know God's Word. And so this event is available for you next weekend, and hope that you'll take advantage of that and learn and get more confident in your own study of the Scriptures. On Sunday, we're doing kind of a fundraiser gathering for our ministry in Ethiopia. It's a ministry we call Ethiopia Hope, and we care a lot about some up to 5 million orphans that live in Ethiopia, and so we're sponsoring children, and we're adopting children, and we're supporting families, and we're supporting a couple of local churches there. And so this event on Sunday is to support that ministry, to learn more about it. Going to be lots of fun, going to be some good grub, and you get to be a part of this whole kind of movement. And whether you're interested in what level that you can be a part of or not, I just invite you to come and hang out and make some friends and have some fun together, and then support something that's really important going on in Ethiopia. Doesn't cost anything to get in. Certainly it's a fundraiser. But boy, it sure be good to help some of these families with some of the expenses they've got in their beautiful, beautiful thing they're doing, especially those that are adopting and then those that are going to be going over there on a work project. So hope you think about being a part of that, if you would. All right. Besides, it's at 4 o'clock, and by 2 p.m., it'll be clear that the Broncos have dominated the Kansas City Chiefs, so that game will be over, and you won't have anything else to do on a kind of a gray and gloomy day. So come hang out over here. Bam. Okay. Hey, I wanted to say what's up to the campuses. So Lockwood and Plentywood and Cody, Wyoming. Love being with you guys. I want to say welcome to you. And Cody, neat thing for you guys, our annual conference for our denomination was this week. And your campus pastor, Keith Twigg, was licensed by our denomination, which means that basically his peers simply affirm his calling and gifting and the God's anointing on his life as a pastor in Cody. So give it up for Keith Twigg and all of our campuses. Say, way to go, Keith. He's God's man, and I have much esteem for Keith. So we're in a series called Unburdened, and today we're going to talk about trust. Let me just remind you one more time the genesis of this series. In our Lent season at the Good Friday service, we had a bunch of stations for people to go through and experience some things. One of those stations was about burdens, but the burden Jesus carries for us. And we gave people an opportunity to write their burdens on a fabric wall. It was a 3-sided fabric wall, and this is that wall kind of in pieces now up here. And the things that are written here are so intense and so moving and just visceral. You just feel the angst in these burdens, that we're so moved by that we categorized them and quantified them and found the most common burdens and said, let's address those issues in a sermon series. And that's this sermon series. Started last week as we talked about parenting, brought Steve Scheibner in to teach a parenting class, and then to talk a little bit about that in his sermon last weekend. And then here's the rundown from here. It's today we're talking about fear and worry versus faith and trust. Really going to talk mostly about trust. What we noticed on that one is that if you take all the stuff up in here about fear and worry and take all the stuff about trust and faith and combine them, that was far and away the most frequent thing written up here. And so that one we'll deal with today. Next week we're going to work with forgiveness, giving and receiving. Then at Thanksgiving weekend, I'm going to talk about the issue of being angry at God. I thought that would be excellent content for Thanksgiving. I want to talk about that whole issue of what's that all about, being angry at God. Then we're going to talk about marriage. Then we'll talk about guidance, like how to know God's will for your life. And then we'll talk about salvation of family and friends. This is sort of the order in which the burdens appeared up here. So that takes us all the way to Christmas. There is a website that we've developed that's sort of a companion tool through this series, unburdened.me, unburdened.me. And that's something that you can go to and just rattle around in there, some resources in there, some ways to connect with people, to express some things, to kind of continue the worship and learning process that we start in here. So I offer that to you. All right. Remember last weekend, George told you to bring your phones. Did you bring your phone? All right. So pull your phone out, if you would, please. And over this series, we're going to be doing some phone polling. And we're going to use texting to poll you. And so if you don't have texting on your little it doesn't have a cord or anything. It's like a cell phone. If you don't have texting, like it's 2011 and it's just a phone call and you can get this thing. It's cool where you don't have to so anyway, if you haven't gotten that yet, it's available. But we're gonna poll a few times, okay? And so there'll be 3 questions that we're gonna run through right now. Now at the campuses, you're doing this too. So everybody's got their phone out. And by the way, your phone's on silent, right? Don't mess with me, because I'll stink and answer your phone and embarrass you in front of everybody if it rings. I mean, I love you, but okay. Okay, so here's our first one. Ready? Phone's out. You're gonna text the phone number, the address is 22333. So that's, for those of you that, this is like the phone number line, that's where your 22333. And then who you rooting for? Cats, Grizz, or you don't care, and then just hit send and send it on to us here, and we'll. Oh my gosh, there's one person who doesn't care. And obviously the right answer is 336863. Send. Bam, there I am. I'm getting, keep going. Should we shut it off now? Oh, wait a minute. Half the people don't. All right. Come on. Come on, Grizz fans. Let's go. Unfortunately, I only get to text once. Your phone will. Oh. God, I should have shut it off. No. What do you mean you don't care? Dude, somebody's phone just rang. That is hilarious. Okay, I've got, it's tied. Okay, 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. I'm going to close the poll. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dead heat. Yeah! Stop. Right there. Who is my brother that gave that last vote? Where are you? Yeah, the girl. Oh, wasn't you? You're lying? You're in church. What's up? What? Huh? No. Oh. Open it back up. Open it. It's got to be the Grizz. Okay, we got to just close in prayer. I don't want to be with you people. Okay, here's the next one. What? Oh! Okay, we're back to a dead heat. All right, I feel a little better about your salvation. Okay, let's go to the next question, which says this. My phone's a little, okay, there we go. I struggle trusting God with, and you got 5 choices. You get to pick one. Finances, relationships, health, government, or personal safety. Relationships is far and away running. Okay, 10 seconds. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, that one's closed. So campuses, I can't see what you guys are getting, but here it's 42% relationships is the thing that people struggle trusting God with the most. And then behind that, finances. Okay. And that was very similar to the other services. Okay, next one. Okay, this is kind of a fun one. I fully intend to run a 100-mile race. Definitely sounds like fun. Let me pray about it. No stinking way. I'd love to, but I have a colonoscopy scheduled. So you get to do one of those now. Okay. Do we have any definitely's yet? Oh, we do have one. No stinking ways. I bet, I'm just guessing that the Lockwood campus is a high percentage of those people are saying definitely, because they're tough out there at the Lockwood campus. Cody's famous for colonoscopies, so I'm pretty sure. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, closing in 4, 3, 2, 1, closed. So here's an interesting thing at the Heights campus is that 16% would rather have a colonoscopy than run a 100-mile race. So I can't help you with that. Okay, so do you see that 9% of us say they're definitely going to run a 100-mile race? Do you kind of feel like we should hold those people accountable? Like we should know who they are, right? I mean, this was anonymous until now. Okay, so if you just texted that you are going to run a 100-mile race, we want to support you. We need to know who you are. Will you please stand up? 100-mile race, who is it? Yeah, that's what I thought, you coward. You're not going to run it, are you? Oh, you're skewing the averages is what really? You're going to run a 100-mile race? You would bless your heart. Well, you know, you're excused right now. You can start running now if you'd like. Okay, let's go to Mark chapter 4. Would you turn there, please? Mark 4, and we're going to now press into this idea of trusting God. And your big idea today says this, that the solution to the sin of fear and worry is faith and trust. But how do you do that? How do you do faith and trust? That's what we're going to work on today. What I want you to note, too, in that big idea is what I'm saying there is that worry is a sin. Fear is a sin. The Bible says, do not fear, don't worry, do not be anxious. I would suggest to you that fear and worry, anxiety, is the most commonly disobeyed command. This is one of the most common sins amongst Christians is that we do this one. And kind of without pause. We're kind of relentless at this. For some reason, don't feel much conviction about it. And it's just important for someone to remind you that fear and worry is sin. And if it is, then there must be a solution to that. And I would argue that solution is trust. Now, look, I live in this world. I get it. Like, I'm with you. Not a bit of condemnation coming at you from me on this. For me, the fear, anxiety, worry, temptation for me really spins around the water park that we're trying to build for our community. Like that idea came from the Lord to me 12 years ago now. 7 years ago, we began working on it in earnest. And it has been very, very difficult. Like surprisingly challenging, frustrating, scary. And I can't tell you the amount of fear and doubt and second guessing I've done through this process. where I'm going like, did I hear you right, Lord? Are you really doing this? I'm praying for $1 million donor and have been for so long, and he's still saying no to that one. I'm wondering if he's really going to come through with that, and stuff has not gone according to plan very often, and it causes me to doubt even my role here as your pastor. Like, if I got this thing wrong, I do not have any right to be your pastor. And so I just kind of live in this stream where I am tempted all the time to fear and to doubt and to distrust and to second guess, and it's almost paralyzing at times for me. And so, look, I'm preaching this sermon to me as much as I am to you. I get it, and this is something that the Lord's been working on me. This is His sanctification tool in my life, and so proud of Chuck and Tim and the guys that are working so hard on this thing. Things are going up. We're building things. There's concrete in the ground. We've got great weather that's been helping us. And, I mean, we are on track to fulfill our promise. And yet I'm afraid every day, or at least fight the temptation to be fearful about this. So I'm choosing to trust, and that's really the thesis of what I want to talk with you about today. So let's start by kind of giving ourselves a break. You'll notice in your notes the heading there is the myth of certainty. I want to talk about that for just a second. Now, small group leaders. I wanted to develop this further, but I kind of cut it out of the sermon because of time, and so I turned it into a blog entry, and this would be an interesting conversation in your small groups, this idea of certainty. And so maybe you read my blog and you get some of the stuff off there and work on it a little bit. You might find some fruitful conversation about this in your small groups. But what my assertion to you is that there really is no such thing as absolute certainty. Because certainty means that trust, faith, belief, and hope are not necessary. You follow that? If you're 100% certain, that requires no faith. Problem. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith it's impossible to please God. So, conclusion, God never intended for you to be 100% certain about anything. He has not given us all the information. He stopped short on that. We don't have all the facts, and so we must exercise faith and trust. Because if you were 100% certain, it would require no faith, and without faith, it's impossible to please God. And for your good, God wants you to trust Him, because that's the best way to live life. And so He hasn't given us all the information. So no matter what the situation is, there's still this either little or large element where you've got to choose to have faith or trust. So what I'm saying here is, I just want to give everybody a break. I want you to know that it's okay to be unsure, nervous, confused, even doubting and uncertain. The solution to the doubt is not certainty. The solution to the doubt is not investigating the facts until you are certain. The solution, the remedy, isn't certainty. The solution, the remedy, is an internal, deep, kind of even sometimes agonizing decision to trust. And that decision is often hard because it's going against the circumstances. So you believe or have faith in spite of your uncertainty. So just kind of leveling the playing field and going, the doubt thing, yeah, that's all part of this. You're not going to ever exercise faith and trust if you don't also doubt. Okay, so now let's go, to trust or not to trust. Let's work on that. And I'd like us to look at two contrasting stories. The first one's in Mark chapter 4. So would you turn there, please? And in Mark 4, it's a very familiar story. I'm just going to read a little bit of it and comment on it, and you'll get the picture here. This is the disciples and their experience with Jesus in a boat. Verse 35, that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. Verse 37, a furious squall came up and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. What's important to know here is that the Jewish fishing boat was a small boat, low sides on it. This is 13 guys in the boat, weighing it down so it's even lower in the water. And the Greek term that's used here to describe this storm means that it was a ferocious storm. So we've got small boat overloaded in a ferocious storm, wind, rain, big waves, lots of fear. Verse 38, Jesus was in the stern, sleeping. Show off. Sleeping on a cushion. Ferocious storm. It says he was tired, but it says something else too. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" In our own storms that we experience in life, most of us ask the same slanderous question of God. Don't you care that I'm going through this? Why are you letting this happen to me? You don't care about me. When we fear and worry, while Jesus sleeps soundly in the bottom of the boat, we are actually accusing Jesus of not caring about us. And so his response, he got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Oh, guys, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Jesus asserts that they have no faith. On what grounds does he make this assertion? Well, certainly they were scared, but what else? It's in verse 35. Let us go over to the other side. When Jesus says, you're going over to the other side, where are you going to go? To the other side. It doesn't matter what's coming. It doesn't matter how ferocious the storm. It doesn't matter if it's a tsunami or a typhoon or a hurricane. The moon can fall out of the sky and splash in the lake, and you will still go to the other side. God is trustworthy. He's going to do what he says he is going to do. And he makes lots of promises. He says stuff to us like, "I will never leave you nor forsake you. I'm giving you the power to defeat temptation." He tells us he gives us the wisdom to make the right decision. And that nothing that we can do can separate us from the love of God. And if all things work together for those who love God. These are the kinds of promises that he makes. And look, if somebody dies, if you die, that goes according to plan. His plan in this case was, we're going to go to the other side. If his plan was, we're going to drown, he'd have said, we're going to drown. So maybe they forgot that he said we're going to go to the other side. And it's really a tragic deal because that ride could have been so much fun, right? Like, look, you're in a boat getting thrown around by a typhoon and you get to stand in the bow. I'm the king of the world, this. You're just riding the thing, surfing the waves to the other side. But instead of enjoying the ride, what did they do? They practically sunk under the burden of fear and worry and anxiety. They either thought that Jesus lied to them or they thought he couldn't handle this problem. When you doubt and when you fear, you are saying to Jesus, you are either lying to me or this problem's too big for you. Let's look at another story. Actually, we're going to look at the result of a story. It's in Psalm 3, and here's what's going on before David writes Psalm 3. David, the king, has a son named Amnon. David's son Amnon rapes David's daughter, Amnon's sister, Tamar. Okay? Amnon rapes his sister, Tamar. David, the king, doesn't really do anything about it. So Tamar's brother, Absalom, takes revenge by murdering his brother, Amnon. You got it? Amnon rapes Tamar. Their brother Absalom then murders Amnon. Then Absalom does something else, and that is he stages a coup, and he runs his father, King David, out of Jerusalem, takes his throne, takes his riches, and takes his women, starts sleeping with David's wives, his dad's wives. Now, David, who was once the most powerful guy in the world, was alone, mocked, in disgrace, impoverished, hungry, destitute, defeated, rejected by his family, and rejected by the very country that he brought to prominence. Now, if you were David, would you have a little anxiety about all this? Lose a little sleep, maybe? How did David do? We know how David did because he recorded a song for us. It's recorded for us in Psalm 3, and here's the song he wrote. O Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. What I want you to notice is that the problem is still there, and he's acknowledging it in his song. That God has not vanquished his foes. David still has enemies, and he's tempted to not trust God because everybody's saying God will not deliver him. And so he's tempted to believe that. But verse 3, but you are a shield around me, O Lord. You bestow glory on me and lift up my head. If a guy's head was ever going to be down, it would be after this what David experienced, and God is lifting his head and even bestowing glory on him because he is a shield around him. God will protect him, and David will have glory, and his head will be lifted. And David is praying to God, and God is answering him. Verse 5, he says, I lie down, or did I get 4? To the Lord I cry aloud, and he answers me from his holy hill. That's his prayer. And then he says in verse 5, I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. Did you notice the common theme in both stories of sleep? Jesus sleeping in the stern of the boat because he's not afraid. David sleeping on the floor of a cave because he's not afraid. How you sleeping these days? I don't sleep well. I haven't for a long time, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that my hardwiring. The Lord has designed me to be a little intense at times, I suppose, a little energetic, and so I have a little bit of trouble settling down to go to sleep. And so there's just some intensity to me that does not lend itself well to a deep night of sleep. The other reason I don't sleep very well is because you people stress me out. It's your fault. It's yours and God's fault, really. So, you know, I have some anxiety, and there's stress, and like one person gets mad at me, and I'm not sleeping well. David's got 10,000 people trying to kill him, and he's sleeping like a rock. What's the deal? I take some steps to try to sleep better. You know, I've just learned some things over the years, and you know, the room needs to be dark, and I have a little routine before I go to bed, and sometimes I take some supplements, some natural supplements to help me sleep, and you know, thread count is very important. I also sleep much better in a cooler room. I think my metabolism's so high that I'm just constantly burning calories, and so I sleep sort of hot. And so in the summer, it's a little bit of a struggle for me because I'm on the second floor, and it's just a little warmer in the summer, and I have a little more trouble sleeping. In the winter's great because I can crack the window open or throw the window wide open, and I sleep better when the room's cooler. As a matter of fact, I've discovered that my optimum temperature for sleeping is 59 degrees, and so that's the temperature I try to have in the room when I'm sleeping is 59 degrees. Now, that impacts my marriage. You know what I'm saying? Because, you see, because of that, my precious wife, let's just put it this way. She does not buy her pajamas at Victoria's Secret. She buys them at Tractor Supply Company. Girl sleeps in Carhartt. That's what I'm getting at. But I sleep better when it's 59 degrees in there. Now, like David has got this mess. And he's in a hole and sleeping. Why? Verse 6. I will not fear the tens of thousands drawn up against me on every side. You see what he's doing? He is making a choice to trust. He is making a choice to not be afraid. The circumstances have not changed. The circumstances do not allow him to not be afraid. He is choosing to be afraid in spite of the circumstances. The problem's still there. There's 10,000 guys that want him dead. But he chooses not to fear. He chooses to trust and to trust God for the outcome. In the face of doubt and anxiety and worry and fear, God wants you to choose to trust him. We must choose to trust him. Vern, you need to trust him. We must take the risk of trusting God rather than taking on the problem and worrying ourselves to death. Now, it sounds easier said than done, but on the other hand, it just kind of sounds too easy. Just choose to trust. Yeah. And there's incredible power in it when you do it. Okay, but how? All right, 3 suggestions, 3 hints. First one, memory. Tap into memory. Remember. What I mean by this is the Old Testament scriptures constantly say to remember. God commands his people to remember. Now remember what? Not theology, not doctrine, not a memory verse. Remember God's mighty acts when he showed that he is trustworthy. Additionally, the 4 Gospels are there to ensure that we remember Jesus' life and his way. Hebrews 11 has this great list of people that proved themselves faithful and trusted in God, and they're kind of this hall of fame. It's a list of people in the Bible who trusted God. And so those stories serve to inspire us. God did that once, and he could do it again. Then there's the memory of Christians who've gone before us and lived lives of radical faith through the throes of utmost difficulty. And then there's the memory of the times when you went through a very difficult patch in your life, and you look back on those days and you shudder, but you also realize that God was there with you, building strength and endurance in you and sanctifying you and purifying you in that process, and it was worth it. And so you are emboldened to go ahead and trust him again rather than to fall for the temptation to fear. And this is something that I think we need to do daily. Remember the faithfulness of God in all of these areas. In the stories of the Old Testament, in the teachings of the New Testament, in the life of Christ, in the lives of Christians throughout history, and in your own personal life, the times when God is shown to be faithful, and this emboldens us. A second hint would be the reality of community. And what I mean by this is how others can help you trust God and not be fearful. So a small group, a friend can help you believe and fear less and remind you of God's previous faithfulness and instill some hope in God's future provision. So some fellow Christians that the Bible talks about it this way, can bear your burden, the burden of doubt and fear. So we should all have some friendships where we can come to people and go, hey, I'm not doing very well here. I'm struggling to even believe in God these days. Now, look, if somebody comes to you with that one, don't panic and don't fear for their soul. What happens when somebody comes to you and discloses that they're having trouble believing and that their faith is waning is that you come alongside them and you bear that burden with them. Here's how Daniel Taylor writes it, and I like what he says. Sometimes life's troubles may so overwhelm me that I cannot for a time sustain belief in God. This kind of, doubt is kind of winning the day. And then he says, in my humanity, I may, like many of my biblical predecessors in the faith, despair or even rage against God. At that point, you must believe for me. Help me believe. Do not insist that I still believe. Listen to how he writes this. Do not whip the mule that has collapsed under the burden. Get up. No. You do what you can to lighten the burden and wait patiently until I have regained the strength. And someday I will do the same for you. We all need that kind of friendship. That when you're in the face of doubt and fear, when you're wondering if God is even there in a moment, that there's somebody helping you believe. Community. Third, perseverance. Perseverance. Perseverance means, of course, carrying on in the face of obstacles or carrying on despite unfavorable circumstances. It's continuing to choose to trust God when it seems like it's actually not working. Like you're going, I'm trying to trust Him, but nothing's getting better. But here's what we know, and that is that the Bible promises us that we will face difficulty, hardship, and suffering, and the temptation to fear and to worry. But those difficulties then serve to strengthen us and to purify us and sanctify us and mature us and help us experience God in new and loving ways. But it will only happen if you persevere. Because we are tempted to quit and to quit too soon. What we're tempted to do is to run back to the stern of the boat and shake Jesus awake and go, you don't care about me. And then he has to stand up and go, oh, I see that I still have more to teach you about this. And so the Bible calls us to persevere. Famously in Hebrews, let me turn to it. Hebrews 12, you want to turn there, you can. Here it is on the screens. 3 verses, so rich. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, that's remembering. That's these great men and women of faith that trusted God. So since those guys are with us, watching us, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. What is that? What is the hinder? What is the entanglement? It's worry, fear, anxiety. Throw that off and run with perseverance the race marked out for us. There's our word, perseverance. And it's a race. And notice that the race has been marked out for us. We didn't mark it. God did. That means when you're going through a hard patch, it's because that's what He wants you running through. And so you persevere through that. And here's how you do it. Verse 2, you fix your eyes on Jesus. There's your finish line, see? Not the hardship, but it's your eyes are on Jesus. The author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before Him, by the way, persevered all the way to the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Finish line. So consider Him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you don't grow weary and lose heart. Jesus persevered. You persevere. Okay. Phone's out. One more poll. Of those three, which one do you struggle with the most? That's what I want you to answer. So, you struggle the most with remembering the lives that went before you, remembering God's faithfulness in your life, remembering some of the things that God has said in His scriptures. Community, you don't have some people that you struggle with maybe there. You don't quite have the relationships where people can bear your burdens. Or perseverance, your tendency is to quit too soon. You want to bail out. So go ahead and tell us which one's yours. How's your thumbs? Okay, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. 32% is going down. Okay, good. So we're doing okay on remembering. A third of us have relationships that help us. Perseverance. Half of us struggling, finishing strong, sticking it out. We want a quick fix. bail out, you know. Want God to take it away. Let's spend a little time on that one, okay? I want to spend a little time on the perseverance thing for a few minutes here. You ever heard of the Leadville 100? How many of you have heard of the Leadville 100? Okay, Leadville 100 is an ultra marathon, which means you're running 100 miles if you're doing the Leadville 100. It's an out and back. That's 50 miles out, 50 miles back in a one, like you guys, this isn't like over a month. This is one race, okay, over like a day, okay. It's on mountain trails and mountain roads, starts at 10,200 feet, goes to 12,600 feet twice because it's an out and back. So not only is it 100 miles, it's 100 miles at high elevation. You with me here? The winner of the Leadville 100 wins it in around 16 hours every year. There's a 30-hour cutoff. So a DNF did not finish. If you don't get it done in 30 hours, you're jettisoned from the race. You're out. This year, in 2011, the DNF rate was 50%. It hovers somewhere between 40 and 60% every year. That around half the people that start the race do not finish the race. You know, it's 100 miles at elevation in Colorado. So just to give you a little picture of what this is like, would you take a look at the screens for a few moments?
Well, Leadville's a 10,000-foot, high-altitude mountain town. And when the mine shut down, basically, almost everybody was unemployed.
So in 1983, we had our first 100-mile foot race.
I'm really privileged to be here, to actually be able to run such an iconic race.
Leadville is unique in the fact that, you know, when it started, due to the high altitude and the big country, you know, that the race is run on, everybody thought it couldn't be done. Just the idea of running 100 miles through the mountains is just hard to really wrap your mind around.
When I first heard about a 100-mile run, I couldn't believe that there was such a thing.
It's a distance that is so vast, it just doesn't sound even possible.
People come here, if they don't like mountains and if they don't like high altitude and they have trouble breathing, they're not going to stay too long. So it's high altitude all the way. Even when you're at the lowest point, you're in thin air.
I think coming into the 100-miler mountain running scene is fairly intimidating. Starting something new. It's being my first 100-miler, I'm not too sure what to expect going into the race.
And it gets to a point during a run like that, no matter how good an athlete you are, no matter how well trained you are, that it's going to really hurt. And it's going to transcend the physical and become about the mental.
Whether you're finishing in 30 hours or you're winning in 16 hours, you're going to hurt. And you've got to manage that pain.
I think there's certain patches that you hit, you just feel so bad, so terrible, your legs are burning, you feel nauseous, times you're dizzy, you just, mouth is super dry, and you don't know if you're going to get out of it.
You better get rid of that comfort zone real quick. The biggest distance to conquer in this race is 5 inches. 5 inches between your ears. If you can't control that, you're dead meat out on that course.
Well, I guess it's just a human challenge. Everybody can't do it. I can't do it. It's a challenge that's just unbelievable. You know, nothing requires much more endurance than running 100 miles at high altitude.
You know, I think the most important thing is getting the most out of yourself. It just starts to compile there at the end, and emotionally it's hard to take it all in and comprehend it and know what you're actually even feeling.
Really stoked and feel really privileged to be able to run, to be able to use my own power, my own 2 feet, my own body, just to travel long distances.
And so, Harvest Church, would you please welcome with enthusiastic applause the winner of the 2011 Leadville 100, your very own Dan Ryland. Welcome, Dan. What? Come on, Dan. Good job, man. Man, what did it feel like to win the Leadville 100?
I really don't know what to say. It was...
Did you win it, Dan?
No.
You didn't win it?
No.
Oh, he didn't win it. What are you doing out here if you didn't win?
You're my pastor and you lied to these people. Oh, Vern.
I only talk to winners, Dan. I got the wrong guy. This is embarrassing. Okay. Did you finish the race, Dan?
I did.
All right. So, and did you get it? Yeah, good job. Yeah, there's the shirt right there. All right.
I should have brought my buckle.
Yeah. Okay, Dan, so a few questions about this, and the one probably that everybody wants to ask is what in the heck are you thinking running a 100-mile race? Why do that?
Good question. And it probably has changed for me over years running. Initially, honestly, my wife Heather was pregnant with our second child. She gained weight. I gained weight, quite a bit of it. And so I thought, maybe I should start running just to kind of, it seemed like a good thing to do and would be healthy. And so that was, 16 years ago.
Yep.
And I found, quite by accident really, that as I got into that and began to do it more, that it was really something that was really relaxing for me. I enjoyed it. And it became, honestly, Vern, kind of a worshipful thing for me.
Running long distance.
Yeah.
You've done a few ultras.
I have.
Yeah. So we're going to take us to Leadville this year,
Okay.
2011, and we're going to spend a little time on like the last 25 miles. So give us just a summary of the first 75 miles.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to fathom, but what were the first 75 miles like? Start to 75 mile mark.
The race starts at 4 a.m. and it's hard to sleep the night before because of the anxiety. The night this year, at about 11 p.m., just a horrific thunderstorm rolled into Leadville. It was just crashing, and there was lightning, and it was loud, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be cold and wet, and because they don't cancel the race. Snow, rain, hail, sun, it doesn't matter. So next morning, the skies had cleared. I got up. It was cold. I go to the starting line. There's a sense of anxiety, but also kind of excitement. It's collegial. There are about 600 to 700 people that are there with race bibs on and headlights, and people are chatting, and they fire a shotgun, and you take off. And initially, the heart rate's kind of high, and there's that anxiety, but it goes away pretty quickly, and you get into a bit of a rhythm. And there's this mass of people that are all heading towards the same spot, and it's dark, and as you get out of town, you kind of get into this sense of community almost.
Yeah.
There's people, you're together, and people are chit-chatting, and it's, you're just starting, so everybody's fresh. At about mile 4 or 5, you get into a single track section that goes along a lake for about 8 miles to the first aid station. And usually then people are kind of in single file, and you're starting to relax and starting to get loosened up, and so you just go. The further you go, it changes a bit. Things kind of start to dismantle, I think is the...
Do you get tired, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's interesting because if I go out to run 5 miles, maybe runners can relate. If you go to run 5 miles, by mile 4, I feel pretty tired. But knowing that you're running 100 at mile 4 or 5 or 15 or even 20, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And that carried me, that kind of sense of feeling pretty good this year up until about mile 50. And then it started getting pretty tough.
Mile 50 would be the turnaround point.
That's right.
So you've already gone over that huge mountain. The
Yep.
elevation gain's ridiculous.
It
and
is.
It's steep, right? I mean, you're not...
You go from the lowest point on the race course at 9,600 or so feet elevation at a place called Twin Lakes, which is mile 40 outbound, mile 60 coming back. And then you go from 9,600 to 12,700 in about 4 miles. So, and it's not like going to Sylvan Lake with switchbacks. It's
And that's
steep.
after running 40 miles that you hit that
Yeah.
point. Okay, so it's just incomprehensible.
So, so at mile 50, coming back in, it started getting pretty tough. And frankly, I was starting to get to the point where I was really pushing the time cutoffs and really not knowing if I was going to be able to finish it. And mile 75 or so, middle of the night, and yeah, things were starting to kind of come unwound.
Okay, so you had 2 sort of powerful encounters that we'd like to hear about.
Yeah.
So the first one was at the second to last aid station, and the aid stations are set up, say, maybe around every 10 miles.
Right.
And there's time cutoffs at each one that you've got to be
Yep.
inside of that.
Yep.
And you're on the bubble.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, by the way, you're on the bubble is that you're not in the best shape in the world, and part of the reason for that was because of your knee surgery.
Correct.
So you're pretty fresh off a knee surgery running this 100-mile race.
Too fresh for my orthopedic surgeon to give consent.
Yeah, all right. So you're getting to the second to last aid station, and what goes on?
So second to last aid station is an aid station that it's outbound, inbound. It's called Fish Hatchery, and it cut off. I didn't look at the website, Vern, last night. About 3 a.m. was when I needed to be there. At about 2:45 a.m., about 15 minutes or so before 3 a.m., I could see the lights for Fish Hatchery because you're on a pavement stretch there. It's pretty flat. You're in kind of a valley. It seemed like forever in the distance to me. And, I started getting the voice in my head going, man, you've been out here a long time. At that point, 22 hours plus for me. And it was really starting to be in a lot of pain. But I had this sense that, I'm not a quitter, I'm not a quitter, I'm not a quitter, I'm not going to quit. What started to happen to me then was I thought to myself, I've got 15 minutes to make this cutoff. It's a long ways. I don't have to quit. If I just keep going at the pace I'm going, which to me was excruciating, I'm going to be able to come back to my family and friends and say, hey, I didn't quit. I got disqualified. I got cut off by time. And I knew that I was right on the bubble to make the 3 a.m. cutoff into the fish hatchery. So I'm thinking through that, kind of almost rationalizing, this isn't quitting. Dan, you're not a quitter. You're not a quitter. You don't have to quit. Just keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to take care. And man, that hotel bed started looking pretty good. And I think, wow, in 2 hours I can be showered and I can be asleep. And then I just had this, it wasn't an audible voice, but I had this just conviction from the Holy Spirit. It was, I don't know how else to describe it. And I heard the Lord say to me, I've never quit on you. And remember, Vern, I just told you that I wasn't going to quit. I'd rationalize I don't have to quit. And I wouldn't have to have said to anybody that I quit. But between me and the Lord, I heard him say to me, but you're not giving me your all. I've never quit on you, Dan, and you're not giving me your all. And I went, yeah, I am.
It's almost unfair of him to do that.
Oh. So this banter went on for a couple of minutes, and it was like, I'm giving you my all. And then the intensity of it increased because he said, I gave everything for you. Everything. Are you giving everything?
That was a low blow, wasn't it?
So my short answer to that was, okay, God, I'm going to give you everything. And so I was expecting things to change there a bit. But what happened, ironically, was I had this sense, we all want to have this children's Bible story kind of moment where, it's like, okay, God, I'm going to give you my all. And I was expecting the eagle's wings, right? I was expecting to all of a sudden the pain to go away and things to get easier. And boy, none of that happened whatsoever.
It did not get easier.
It did not get easier. And as I'm
But there must have been something in you. I mean, you had a new conviction or something.
Well, I certainly thought I had reached my limit and realized that when really, really confronted, and again, I don't mean to reiterate it ad nauseum, but it was between me and God.
Yeah.
It was like,
You're all alone out there.
yep,
Just the
it
two
was
of you.
dark, and there was nobody around. There's no group now. People are spread out across 40
Yeah.
miles or so coming back in, and
So tell them, so as you're heading into fish hatchery,
Yeah.
you picked up your pace, you're
Yep,
going to make it,
yep.
and then that official comes out.
So I see, I'm getting close enough to the turnoff to go into where the timing mat. You have to go across these mats. You have a computer chip that you're wearing that's keeping track of your time. I see a headlamp coming toward me on the road, and I thought maybe it was somebody waiting to encourage somebody. And it's a man, and he goes, "What's your race number?" And I said, 671. And he gets on the radio and he goes, 671, last guy through. And as I go across, he closes the course behind me as I go behind him.
So barely made it.
Barely made it.
And you're not done yet, but
Oh,
you're
gosh.
still at mile 75 or
That's
whatever,
right,
but
that's right.
you're kind of like in last place at this point.
That's right.
Just if anybody missed that. Okay.
Thanks for pointing that
Sure.
out, friend.
So, so you get through fish hatchery,
Yeah.
and you head out to the now very last checkpoint before then finish.
That's
and
right. So the second biggest climb of the course it's called Power Line, and it's still leaving fish hatchery. It's between that checkpoint and the very last checkpoint prior to the finish line, which is at it's called May Queen. Yeah, and there's a time cutoff for that one as well.
Okay, and you had was it after that you had your next encounter?
Yeah, so that one didn't go much better between those two, but I got into that last check station with about 2 minutes to spare. So hey, I'd improved.
Yeah,
I'd picked up
2
about
minutes.
2 minutes for that time cutoff, and then things changed a bit.
It's unreal that you're this long of a race and it's down to kind of seconds for you to stay in the race. It's
So-
gnarly.
I didn't know this at the time, but Heather, my wife, was because you have a chip. There's a website, and they can watch real time people's times. And so Heather tells me later that she's on the website looking, and she's thinking, there's like a cutoff time, and then there's the runners' times that come, posted. And she said to herself, she tells me, this couldn't be the cutoff times. This must be the estimated pace given his.
Yeah.
So she said it was so close where
Yeah.
I was at that.
Okay, so you got through that last checkpoint. Now you've got nothing but finish line ahead, and you are struggling. You're
Yeah.
walking, and then something important happens.
So at that point, I knew I had gotten through the last point where they could disqualify you. The only thing between me and the finish line was 13 and a half miles. And I really, at that point, sincerely did not think that 30 hours was going to happen. There was just no way I felt like I could make it in 30 hours. But I knew that I could make it.
Yeah, you're just going to be you're going to be a DNF.
Yep, I'm going to be, so a DNF, technically it's a did not finish. So under that, if you're 30 hours and 2 minutes, you are a DNF,
Yeah.
whether you finish or not. But
Okay.
but I knew that I would be able to come back to all my friends and family and say I made the 100-mile race. And I was, frankly, that's where I was at. I'd settled into a walk. It was painful. Even walking really, really hurt. My ankles were swelling up. My knees were sore.
And Chris shows up,
A friend of mine, Chris, shows up. Yep.
and he had a talk with you.
About mile 93, a good friend of mine who was also doing the race, but wasn't able to finish it this year. He's done it before. This year he wasn't able to finish it. He meets me with his wife and her dog at about mile 93, 94. And his reaction was very encouraging. Dad, you're doing this. It's awesome, Dan. Good job. I can't believe you're here. You're doing great. It's going to be great. And so for about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, that's kind of how that went.
Yeah.
And then he looks at me and he says, you got to pick it up. And I'm like, there's nothing left. There's nothing. And there wasn't, guys. There was nothing left. I said, dude, there's nothing left. And he's like, okay, yeah, you're doing great. Dan, you got to pick it up. And this goes on for about 3 or 4 minutes. And finally, his tone changed from being encouraging to being really serious. And he goes, I did not let you come all this way and go through this much of an effort to have you not finish. You are going to pick it up. And he's 6'6" and a big guy.
So you got rebuked.
And I'm like, but it wasn't getting it done.
Yeah.
Vern. That's still. It was like, but I don't have anything left in the tank.
And
I'm
so you and the
spent.
Lord had another talk.
About that time, the Holy Spirit kind of grabbed me again. And what I heard was, you know, it wasn't, Dan, are you giving it all as much this time, though that was still kind of resonating,
Yeah.
Vern. But what I heard was, hey, I never told you this was going to be easy. And I'm like, it's not. But I told you I would never forsake you. I would never leave you. And so this played out for me. It wasn't like all of a sudden I was like, okay, I feel supercharged. This played out for about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And this is back and forth to the point where Chris quit haranguing me. It was kind of like, I think he had resolved that we're going to finish in 31 hours, and that's what's going to happen. And I don't really know what it was, Vern, but because every step hurt, every step literally hurt. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, it's not easy. And I kept hearing God saying, it's not going to be easy, but I'm with you, I'm with you. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I want to do everything that I can humanly do, that I can possibly do, Lord, to honor your commitment to never leave me. And
That
somehow
is so powerful. Gal, and you ran and you crossed the finish line at what time?
29 hours and 48 minutes, basically. Thank you.
Okay, let's do a couple of lessons now
Yeah,
from this.
yeah.
The first one is, okay, you're real life now. You have a job and a family, and you live in the world. And
Yeah.
so, did you? Did the Lord? What has He taught you, or what has this experience done for you briefly, just in life right now?
So, honestly, one of the things that resonates with me most is that I've kind of, because I've lived this as many of us have in different circumstances, that I realize, though, that no matter how good I feel or how bad I feel, it's going to change.
They're both temporary.
They're both temporary.
Yeah.
Yep. And so when I'm in times of intense physical or emotional or financial or work-related or relational stress, I go, okay. And it's kind of Him saying, Dan, remember what I showed you. I revealed myself to you in this way, and it's had a lot of application for me in other parts of my life.
That's cool. So that struggle is going to not always be there. It's going to dissipate, and He's with you in it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to do this. Just because. Okay, so the three things that in your notes there, right? Like, let's just hit on each of these three things. First one's memory.
Yeah.
In that experience, did memory help you at all?
Absolutely. And though we didn't talk about it, and it was a whole different experience for me. Back in 2003, I had done the same race and completed it, and it was as worshipful for me that time as this time, but the circumstances were different. But that gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
That what He did for me then,
He'll
He
do
was
again.
going to do for me
Awesome.
this time.
Yeah, that's the idea of memory. Okay. Community.
Yeah.
Did that help
Yeah.
you at all?
Huge. The thing you mentioned, my friend Chris showing up for me, changed everything. By the way, best of my knowledge, Chris probably isn't a Christ follower, but a Christ admirer, I would say, certainly. And he literally, at that point, it's funny, your point earlier, Vern, I didn't know that you were going to talk about having others kind of carry when you couldn't carry.
Yeah.
Emotionally, he did that for me.
He did that for you. Wow.
And then secondly, the community thing, my daughter called me at about 11 p.m. the night before the race and said, Dad, I want you to know, myself and Lance, my son, and Heather, my wife, she said, the three of us are going to fast for you the entire 30 hours. And that really came back to my mind then when I wanted with every fiber of me to quit. I'm
So
like, I can't
a small
quit.
group was supporting you, and you were kind of accountable to them in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Perseverance.
Yeah.
Did that help? Did
Yeah.
that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The perseverance thing for me was, again, kind of the recognition that, life, the analogy, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I guess for me, that was it being lived out. And giving me the confidence to know, Vern, frankly, that it's okay it's okay. You're going to hurt.
Yeah.
And expect it,
Yep.
even, but know that it is about a long-term, endeavor, and
Yeah.
don't lose sight. It sounds corny to say don't lose sight of the finish line, but literally in this instance,
That's biblical.
that's
Yep.
what I was watching for.
Yeah. Good job, Dan.
Thank
Thanks. All right. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you take a look at the bottom of your notes page, please? And do you see that list there, which is really encouraging? Do you see the benefits and blessing of trust? And this would be a list maybe that would be something that you could spend some time with. But look at it. That when you, here's what the Bible says. Here's what Jesus says about this. When you do this, when you persevere, when you actually trust, you're never abandoned or forsaken or disappointed or shamed or disgraced, and you don't lack any good thing. It eliminates fear from your life, and bad news has no power. You're never, ever defeated. You're blessed and surrounded by his love, freely pardoned and rescued. You inherit and possess the land of promise. You live in the land safely. You're happy and blessed. You have a reason to praise. You thrive like an olive tree. You receive help. You receive food. He is a shield to you. And I love this one. But trust in God inevitably results in joy. And you can even see joy in Dan, you know. And so you guys, like, here then is this picture, this portrait of someone who actually trusts God. It's things like he's happy and fearless and free, and he's well provided for and overflowing with good gifts and protected, and you're safe and secure and victorious and thriving and full of joy. And my question to you today is, where are these people? Who is that? Who does that? Who is this guy? Where are they? And so could the answer be, well, they're right here in this room, in these rooms of Harvest Church. This is where it happens, starting today. You see, you can start this now. Starting right now, right here in this room, today, you can be a person that trusts in God and then inevitably lives a life full of joy because you're trusting God. How about it starts with us? Amen? Okay, all right, let's pray.